everybody. So we are out at Coral Pink Sand Dunes. I've got the Honda Talon 4-seater and I got all the kids. Tayson's got his 4-wheeler, so we're gonna go out and get some riding done in the dunes and trails out here at Coral Pink Sand Dunes all day. And I'll be looking at different things that I want to kind of review the Honda Talon and what it does really well, or anything that might come up during the day. So I have some plans for that. So we'll jump into this. We'll be riding all day. We'll try to go out in all different type of terrains and put the Honda Talon through the test. So, and then hopefully I'll have a pretty good review for you guys coming up later. All right. So we've been cruising out here Coral Pink Sand Dunes just for a little bit. First initial impressions running around, I think it's been talked about multiple times. The springs are definitely way too stiff. Every little bump you hit, you can feel it. But you know, obviously there's ways to help fix that. And I think most Honda people that buy the 2-seaters or 4 do shock therapy or whatever. And it's been stated, everybody knows it. Joe's talked about it. And now I've been experiencing it. So that's basically my first impression so far, just riding. It's all the small chop stuff that you feel more so. Handling is fine. I haven't gone into sport mode yet, but we will up here as we get riding around a little bit more, and we'll see if that handles any better. And then hopefully we can find some areas that we can test it on a little bit more. All right, guys. So I hope you're enjoying the quarantine haircut here after I took off my helmet. But after we dropped off part of the family, Tayson and I decided to come out and rip around some more on the Honda Talon live valve. And I've been putting it through its paces out here in the sand dune and trails and trying different things. So I've been able to drive it in automatic, without sport mode, and with the normal shock adjustment on the electronic shocks on live valve. And then I did the same thing with the shifting manual tranny and left it the same. And then I've ran it in 4-wheel drive and in just 2-wheel drive. And then I've also run it in the sport mode for the shocks and sport mode for the Honda in automatic. And then also with the sport mode and shocks and the manual. I've been putting it through its paces, and I've been learning quite a bit about this car that is starting to kind of change my opinion on the ride quality. It is rougher than my KRX, but that can be fixed simply like we talked before, with springs. Usually some springs and shock therapy and some revalving I think they do. But that's not what I'm going to talk about. I want to talk about the live valve and the difference that it does make. So cruising around here in the sand dunes everywhere without the sport mode setting on the shocks, it is not nearly as stable, and it's not as in control no matter how you're driving it, in manual or automatic, sport mode or whatever. But as soon as you put it in sport mode, the shocks completely change, and it's just so much difference in the way that it handles through these sand dunes. The funny thing is that I kind of found that driving it in 2-wheel drive out here is actually quite fun, and I almost like it better than 4-wheel drive. Now, the 4-wheel drive will get you around a little bit better at lower speeds, but at higher speeds, 2-wheel drive gets you around just fine. The other thing that I noticed versus the paddle shifters and running it in just the sport mode automatic, you have to learn throttle control. Throttle control makes a big difference when it comes to being able to keep this car from shifting all the time by itself. So I don't know how to explain that right, but what I'm starting to learn is if you keep it right out of the right RPM and you're backing in and out of it a little bit, it will stay in certain gears longer and get through the stuff better, versus just letting way off and way on, way off, way on with the throttle. Then that's when you see the automatic transmission just completely lose it. Like, it has no clue what it's doing out here. But as I've been trying to learn the machine, I am starting to find a happy balance on the throttle and where I don't have to manually shift it. And it actually runs pretty good that way. So it's been kind of interesting. In the last 2 or 3 hours, I've been learning a lot by how to control it. Now, one thing that I know Dave brought up was throttle control and how he felt when he was using the throttle. So far out here, and this might be to the fact on my size, how tall I am or whatever, I don't know, I have not had any issues with the throttle. Like, it's not hard for me to go smooth and off. That's not a big thrill. The position of the throttle is a little inclined, where I think the Throttle Max could help that. It's kind of like the Teryx, and you can feel that in your leg a little bit, but it's not extremely bad. So I've just learned so much. So the first ride we took out with the family, I was using automatic modes, normal suspension, and then I just used paddle shifters for the rest of the ride, normal suspension. And I wasn't having that much fun out here in the sand dunes, to tell you the truth. Like, it kind of felt out of control. It was in 4-wheel drive. I don't know, it just didn't feel real solid. And then I came out with Tayson and started playing with it. I got into the sport mode. I did paddle shifters or automatic tranny. I did 2-wheel drive, and all of a sudden everything changed for me out here. So this is why we're doing these car swaps, because if I didn't have the time in the seat, I wouldn't have experienced what the car is capable of. It's just about finding its true potential, and I'm learning that being an automatic DCT transmission. It is a lot different than a belt. So I will learn a lot more throughout today. We've only been out here for 2 or 3 hours riding. I'll learn a lot more, but it is making a huge difference. My excitement factor now is gone way up. Tayson and I have been flying around here. Okay guys, so what I want to show in this clip is this is a tight little round circle area that was a little wet. And at the beginning here, I actually just ran it in normal live valve mode, so just a normal shock mode to begin with. And what I'm trying to show you guys is just how I was able to get around the corners and the kind of speed I carried in just normal setting, to show you what the difference is when you get it into the sport mode. So once you get it into the sport mode, which I'm going to show you right here, you will notice quite a bit different. It's probably hard to see it on video, but I'm carrying a lot more speed in the corners and around the corners in sport mode. And this is what I mean about live valve. Live valve is not just to make the machine like ride smooth. That's not what it does. It stabilizes the machine so you can be more aggressive in your driving. So as you can tell here, hopefully it did make quite a bit of difference when I put it into sport mode and did this tight circle area, this little oval track. It made a huge difference. All right, so we've been riding some more at Coral Pink Sand Dunes. I got a chance to do some more trails, some more sand. I talked to you earlier about what I thought about the transmission. So one thing I didn't mention is that when I got the machine, I don't know if Joe had it there or Dave, but the tires were all at 10 PSI. So I went down to 8 PSI. And it seems to be working a little bit better. It can probably even go down to 6 and be just fine. But overall, we're having a great time. We had a chance to go do some whoops over there, so I'll throw the video up on that and you guys can see it. But we've just been cruising around. A couple of the things that I did want to talk to you is on my outlook on the fit and finish of the vehicle. I personally really like the orange and black. I think it's really cool with the live valve setup. I feel like some of the fender work in here and the hood and all this area fits really nice. At night, the headlights, the lights look good, but for some reason they needed to angle them up a little bit. Maybe there's some adjustment on those that you can make, but I noticed the big difference with light, especially versus the KRX. The KRX hands down is like the brightest. And then just because it also might have to do with how the lights sit, but then the Honda Talon is definitely brighter than the XRC. The XRC by far is like the most dim, and I don't know why they didn't put like an upgraded LED bulbs in the XRC, but this one I think really comes down to just the position of the headlights. I've noticed could come up a little bit, would make a big difference. We really like the full roof, all that kind of stuff. The big thing is the fender flares here that come with it are nice. They do stick out farther. I haven't been in much like mud or anything like that, so I'm not sure exactly how much that keeps from flipping up on you. Joe can probably comment on that. but they do stick out quite a bit more than my KRX. That's one issue with the KRX. It throws tons of crap up on you. So you definitely need some type of mud protection to keep it from doing that. The doors and everything, to me on the Talon, I think they look pretty good. You have to get them really tight and adjust to keep them from rattling. And Joe's told me about shutting them pretty solid so they don't, you know, rattle. He's got the full door insert, the little panel insert down here on it. And I think they look pretty good. I think they're finished off better than my KRX. That's one of the things that drives me crazy on the KRX is just the doors. They could have done a better job molding them together. As far as the interior goes, I think the seats on these are really well stitched. I like the interior. I think they're all really well made. I like how they have the pass-throughs already for harnesses, so that works out pretty well. The dash, I like the way that they did the dash. It's kind of hard to see, but the dash looks really, really good. I feel like, you know, the way that they put that in together, you know, put it well. I think their cluster gauge could have been a little bit more updated when they came out with this machine. I think that would have made a big difference. But the interior does have, I've noticed some different holes that you can see down into the ground, and that's just going to create more dust. But overall, I think it does pretty well. The one thing too that I liked, I'll come over here, is this handle. This works a lot better than my KRX. My KRX, you have to open this and pop it out, and it has slots. But this one, actually, you just loosen, pull out, and tighten, and you have no play. So I really like that, way better than most razors. And you can also adjust it to wherever you like and tighten it down. So I think they really, you know, made this really, really well. As far as the room goes, so as the driver, I think like my KRX has a really, really good dead pedal up to the point, like a lot better than the XP1000 the Polaris ever did. I still feel like that one in the KRX could be adjusted a little bit. And I also feel like the Honda Talon one can be adjusted a little bit. I feel like the dead pedal is kind of still not completely where I like it to create the comfort that I want versus the XRC. I feel like the XRC has the best dead pedal area out of all three machines. It's just more comfortable there where that sits. As far as everything else, I really like the orange, the black. I feel like these fenders they put on, they did a really good job. Last night I had to check the air box. A lot of the Honda people already know it. It's like I got to pull the whole motor just to get to the air cleaner. I mean, freak, you got to pull that off, cover, undo the screws, and all that kind of stuff. It's not that it was bad, it didn't take very long, but it by far isn't quick. So if you had to do it out here and just pull one out like the KRX, you can pull it in a matter of a couple minutes, shake it out if you had to, put it back, where here you're gonna need some tools. So as far as the roof goes in the back as well, since we're back here, the one thing that we talked about with Joe is, you know, it'd be kind of cool if they would have stopped it like right in here and brought it over like down this way a little bit more than up and out. I thought that would have been kind of, you know, cool to do, but maybe there's a reason why they formed it this way. As far as everything else, it's pretty well put together. I don't have any major complaints on the fit and finish. You know, I think the powder coat's pretty nice on it. I do feel like there is a lot of holes, like I mentioned before, in the floorboard you can see down, and that just creates like dust and stuff to come up in. So maybe, you know, it'd be better off if they sealed those better. As far as the seats go, you know, Chase, how's the seats in the back? Can you see everything?
Yeah, but your head hits the plastic part.
Your head hits the what?
Plastic part.
What plastic part? Oh, right there. Well, Chase, he's a little guy still, and I guess he says when he's riding in it, the back of his head is hitting this right here. So it matches up with his head, that's for sure. So the other big thing that I want to mention is the 32s that Joe put on it. I think these 32s are awesome for the rocks and hard packed trails and ground clearance. I think he has some stock tires and rims that he's going to keep and that he'll be able to throw on if he hits the dunes. I think the original tires that came with it would be ideal for the sand dunes out here. You'll just get a better, you know, wheel speed, a little bit more power out of the car. and I think it would work a whole lot better out here in the dunes if it had the stock tires on it. I can feel them dragging a little bit, and you can just tell the difference having the 32s. You can just tell that it makes the car work a little bit more, especially out here in the sand dunes. So the other thing is between Dave's XRC and Joe's Honda Talon, they need to learn how to put rear view mirrors like on the side, like side mirrors. Like for some reason neither of them have side mirrors yet, so they need to accomplish that. It makes it a little bit easier to see. The whoop section too that I'm showing right now, I'll roll some B-roll while I talk. So I did that whoop section in non-sport, automatic, and no sport mode, and also no sport mode on the live valve shocks. And I was running like 35 to 38, and it felt okay. I probably could have gone a little faster. And then I went ahead and did it in the sport mode automatic tranny with the sport mode shocks, and I was easily doing 45 to 48, and it held it pretty well. But I could tell a little bit of difference versus my KRX, and it's hard to compare the two because this is a 4-seater and that's a 2, but I can tell the KRX stays a little bit more planted in the rear when you're hitting them faster. But again, we've talked about the way that the suspension works and how that these springs, having some of that adjustment done, would make a big difference in that. All right guys, so that wraps up the review of the Honda Talon Fox live valve 4-seater. So it was a great time having this machine for a few weeks and getting a chance to really get some seat time and figuring it out. I have to say there are definitely pros and cons to the DCT versus a belt. So I don't care what people's opinions are. They get so strong, you know, one way or the other. But I've heard several people, Honda owners, say how great the DCT is, and I can't believe you still have a belt, and vice versa with the belt owners. There's definitely pros and cons. The DCT isn't all that, and the belt isn't all that. There's different areas that it's better than the other, and that's just the way it is. Also, as far as the 4-seater goes with the Honda, to be honest with you, on like rocky trails, a lot of washboard trails, a lot of chop in the sand, the thing honestly kind of rides like a dump truck. At low speeds, it rides better as you get higher, you know, up to speed. But I think when you go into buying a Honda, I think you definitely need to plan on spending $1,500 to $2,000 more to get the shocks either resprung and revalved and all that kind of stuff, or replace them with whatever you're going to do. But at the end of the day, you're definitely going to have to spend the money if you want to get the ride quality to the point where you feel comfortable at slow speeds. So it's something that we've all talked about, but yeah, it definitely handles pretty rough on all the chop stuff. And that's just something that you would have to do if you were to buy the Honda. So I think you just need to know that going into it. Other than that, to be honest with you, the longer I had this car, the more and more I started to enjoy it. And I don't know if it had something to do with the manual tranny and being able to shift along with the automatic and the DCT part, but at the end of the day, it really started to grow on me. So if you guys like what you saw here, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure you comment below if you disagree with some of the things I said or agree, or if you have any other comments, let us know. Make sure whatever you pack in, you pack out. Until next time, this is Deranged Off-Road.
Dying tree fantasy, come talk to me, how did you